Hello everyone. So welcome to the next session in our modern Indian history course. And today it will be a miscellaneous session. Today majorly we'll be discussing a lot of questions, and because we have not discussed a few questions from the last time, so today we'll discuss a few questions and then we'll talk about some of the satyagrahas. That's all. Right? So let's get down to it. So a few questions that we have already studied. So we'll do some revision, a few content I'll read, a lot of content will be there through questions as well. And overarching, these are the questions. Consider the following pairs with reference to the educational reforms in the British India. So this is an act and this is the policy provisions then in a particular act, right? Just let me, yeah. So first is Charter Act of 1813. What has promotion of knowledge of science among the Indians? Government resolution on the education policy 1913 recognized the principle of compulsory education for children. Indian University Act increased university control over the private colleges. So which of the following is three? So it's a pause and then you can try to answer the question. Straightforward question, but sometimes we tend to, because I've told you we have taken a very specific session on the education, right? Now, very quickly, so we remember in 1813 Charter Act has come. We talked about that 1 lakh rupee needs to be given for what purpose? For encouragement of the natives of the for learning natives of the country, for introduction and promotion of the knowledge of the science among the inhabitants of the British territories. So don't think that why will British want to promote science in India? No, it was mentioned in the Charter Act of 1813. Then you have the provisions of the Curzon, we know the story of the Universities Act, the increased control, the times of the Bengal being very, very um, epicenter of the revolution or the protest. And secondly, the reactionary policies of the Governor General. Then the government resolution of 1913, we have seen that government talked about, like, for example, in this resolution, the government of India refused to recognize the principle of the compulsory education. They say, it is good, but they refuse to put it as a recognition of it as a principle, but accepted the policy of the removal of the illiteracy. It urged the provincial governments to take the early step, as well as talked about the private efforts to do it. When the government and the state cannot do it, they always say, "Acha, theek hai, leave it to the states or leave it to the private sector." Some things don't change, right? Okay. So the second statement is wrong. First and third statement is right. Let us see it again. So Charter Act of 1813, promotion of knowledge of science. Yes. Government resolution recognize the compulsory education. Answer is no. Indian University Act increase university control over the private college. Yes. So answer is 1 and 3. Both are right. In the context of the political organization formed during the British rule in India, arrange the following in the correct chronological order. They need to be arranged in a correct chronological order. That is Bombay Presidency Association, Indian National Congress, and Madras Mahajan Sabha. So again, take a pause. If you have revised previous sessions earlier beautifully, then you will be able to answer it. Okay, there is one thing for sure. We have discussed one thing, that in this question, obviously, ultimately, INC was formed. These all the organizations were pre-INC, right? So at least you can eliminate that the last Congress will come. So this and this becomes wrong. So this and this can be the option. Now you just have to remember that Bombay came first or Madras came first. So we have discussed that how many a lot of institutions about them. Madras Mahajan Sabha made 1984 by S. Ramaswamy Mudaliar, Mr. Naidu, Mr. Subramanyam Iyer, Anand Charu, right? And then we discussed about the Madras Bombay Presidency Association, right? Firoz Shah Mehta, but it was early 1985. So early 1885 was Bombay Presidency Association, and later on, late 1985, your Congress was being formed in December. You can download the PDF and revise from the PDF. I'm not going to discuss it in the PDF, right? Because we have already discussed it beforehand. So in the context of the political organization, first came the Madras Mahajan Sabha, that is the May 1884, then Bombay Presidency Association, and then the Indian National Congress. So option is 312. Then in the context of the modern Indian history, torture commission was appointed to. Now we have not discussed torture commission. So isko hum discuss karenge, we'll discuss it. So torture commission, torture is one subject in which currently India, in the present time India, being a democratic country, having a constitution which guarantees the fundamental rights and everything, but still in India, torture is not, we have not signed the, ratified the convention against the torture. But they are talking about the pre-British time. It is quite often that the police torture is institutionalized in India, and only authoritative government-backed study for the practice of the history of modern India is the Madras Torture Commission report of the 1885. Only 1855, sorry. So 1855 may they have come up with this report, that is Madras Torture Commission. And it is very rare, it's true that it's very rare that such committees and commissions are being formed, because it is a sad reality of the policing system. And in the modern time, sad reality, when the, we'll discuss, when the when the torture was used on the agriculture, on the agriculturalist or the farmers, the peasants, the landless people, to extract maximum revenue out of them, right? So in 18, some background of it. So 1854, with the assistance of the Danby Seymour, a member of the House of the Commons, United Kingdom, someone tried to induce British authority to investigate the methods of the torture inflicted by the revenue collectors. So collection of the revenue. So House of Commons was rocked. You don't have to remember these things, just to net to the story. So House of Commons was rocked by the allegation of torture against the East India Company based upon the information from the Madras Presidency. They got the information that to get, because in the Madras is the Royatwari, right? So they got the information that these people used to be tortured to get them rent from the Royats. The revenue collector used to torture such Royats as per the demand of the people. So the court of director immediately directed the Madras government to set up the most searching inquiry and to furnish them a full report on the subject, right? So later on, the report was being made, use of torture by the native servants of the state for the purpose of the realizing the government revenue. So this was the commission being made and the report was being published. Okay. So what is the answer? In the context of the modern Indian history, the torture commission was appointed to inquire into allegation of the torture of the sepoy mutineers, inquire into the force of evict tribals from the forest area, inquire into the allegation of the torture of the plantation worker, no, inquire into the torture by the native officers to compel the riots to pay the taxes, right? Okay, so this is your, that is the torture commission in Madras. Such questions are very, very tough questions. Such questions are not being present in your book such as Spectrum and all, but such questions do not become the part of the must also. Even if you don't get right in your UPSC, then that's fine. But if you are currently reading it, if you have already studied it, for example, now you have studied it, now it is incumbent upon you to strive to get this question right in comes in the UPSC. That should be your mentality going forward in the UPSC preparation, that at least whatever I have read, whatever has gone through in front of my eyes, especially if it has gone through within this within the scheme of the lectures, like we are taking the modern history, it must be your responsibility to make sure that this question is not wrong. At least this small pledge you can take, right? So small steps. Next question is, in the context of the Indian freedom struggle, which of the following were the significant events that took place during the Lucknow session of the 1916? We have discussed in detail about the Lucknow session, right? So they're asking that in the context of the Indian freedom struggle, Lucknow session 1916, which was the event have taken place? Extremists were welcomed back into the Congress by the moderates. The formation of the working committee was approved in the session to carry out the day-to-day affairs. So you can pause and try to answer the question. So in the second statement is a tricky question. Chalo dekhte hain. The Congress session in 1916 held in Lucknow in December month, presided by the Ambika Chand Majumdar, a moderate. We have seen it was very significant. Firstly, the session brought the moderate and the extremists together, right? So it was said that if the Congress was buried in Surat, it was reborn in Lucknow in the garden of the Wajid Ali Shah. So it is being said in the context of the Lucknow session. Then secondly, it was also significant that Muslim League and Lucknow pact was signed between the Muslim League and the Congress. So remember, this pact is significant. Pact is there for the moderates and the extremists, not for moderate and the extremists, but for the Muslim League and the Congress. Then the third part, that is significant proposal made by Tilak at the Lucknow session, that Congress should appoint a small and the cohesive working committees that would carry out on the day-to-day affairs of the Congress and responsible for implementing the resolution passed at the annual session. So whatever the resolutions that we are passing at the annual session, this uh, this working committee needs to be formed, but it was unfortunately quashed by the moderates opposition, right? From 4 years later in 1920, when Mahatma Gandhi prepared a reformed constitution of the Congress, it was one of the major changes considered necessary for Congress to lead a sustainable movement. And this is how the Nagpur session becomes a very, very relevant session that we have already discussed. So the answer is the first statement only, second statement is wrong. In the context of the Indian freedom struggle, which of the following were the significant events that took place during the Lucknow session of 1916? The extremists were welcomed back into the Congress by the moderates. The formation of the working committee was approved in this session to carry out the day-to-day affairs. The first statement is right. Consider the following statements regarding the Hindustan Republican Association, HRA. Its aim to overthrow the colonial rule and establish the Federal Republic of the United States of India. Its members were involved in the famous Kakori conspiracy. Kakori conspiracy. So what is the answer? Pause the video and very easy question. HRA we have discussed, founded in the Kanpur. We have seen the leaders as well in the last session only. Revolutionaries we talked about. So both the statements are right, right? So policies of Gandhi were criticized, that is especially the Chauri Chaura, and after that constructive work and all this, we don't like that. So it was established, HRA established his branches in Agra, Allahabad and other places in the UP. Sanyal wrote the manifesto for HRA titled the Revolutionary. It was distributed among the large cities of North India in 1924. Then Kakuri robbery we have discussed in detail, right? A village near the Lucknow, and people were hanged also after the Kakuri robbery. So both the statements are right with respect to HRA. So आपको note क्या करना है इसमें से ये fact. You have to note down this fact which we have not discussed. That was the revolutionary was the name of the manifesto of the HRA, and that revolutionary was written by the Sanyal. ठीक है. Next question is, which consider the following statement regarding the Khilafat movement in India. Khilafat committee was formed under the leadership of the Kali brothers, Maulana Azad and Hasrat Mohani. Gandhi was the president of the All India Khilafat committee in 1919. So pause the video. It's a bit tricky question. Thoda sa. Now Khilafat movement, we have discussed the reasons of the Khilafat movement, only has to be discussed some objective thing. With the Gandhi embrace of the Khilafat movement founded by the Ali brothers, Maulana Ali and Shaukat Ali, and Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, one of the major planks of the non-cooperation movement, it became a movement that showcased the Hindu-Muslim unity. Now, so first statement is right. Khilafat committee was formed under the leadership of the Ali brothers. Next, Gandhi ji was the elected president of the All India Khilafat Conference. So this is the conference, that is Gandhi ji is the elected president. Then comes the committee, All India Khilafat Committee, and of which the Gandhi ji is not the president. So wo yaad rakhna hai, that one thing that we have to remember. And Shaukat Ali as it. So who was the president? That is Seth Sultan was the president, and the Shaukat Ali was the secretary, right? Then this committee was being formed. So Gandhi ji kiske president the? That he was the president of the conference. Then comes the committee. So this was the answer. So first statement is fine, second statement is wrong. Gandhi was not the president, right? I'm going quickly also. You can download the PDF, but the questions, because we have already spent enough time to discuss all these things. Next question is, which among the following are the major announcements were being made during the Delhi Darbar of 1911? During the Delhi Darbar of 1911, which are the following announcements were being made? The creation of the Privy Council, the annulment of the partition of the Bengal, the shifting of the capital from British India to Calcutta to Delhi. Right. No, so Delhi Darbar of 1911. Now Delhi Darbar we have discussed a bit. Delhi Darbar was basically event organized by the Viceroys to mark the coronation of the Emperor and the Empress. Right. So what is happening in the England, so as to symbolize, as India is a part of the British Empire, they have to organize some Delhi Darbar. So these were also known as the coronation darbars. Darbar means a court of ruler in Persia, was adopted by the British from the Mughals. The idea came across to people as the heirs of the Mughals. Delhi Darbar, Delhi Darbar of 1877. Remember, this was made in the times of the Lord Lytton, and especially when the government, when India was going through a very famine and this droughts were there, right? Still, that was done. So in 1876, Queen Victoria, in addition to her title of Queen of the Great Britain and Ireland, assumed the title of the Empress of the India. The Viceroy Lord Lytton asked to proclaim her on her behalf throughout the India. He decided to hold an imperial assemblage on 1877 for this purpose. During this time, this Privy Council was created. Okay. Now, Delhi Darbar happened also in 1903. Second Darbar was held in the 1903. It was not just an assemblage, but a grand affair that everybody wanted to be a part of. This Darbar marked the ascension of the Edward VII on the occasion of the order of the Edward VII. It was not attended by the king, but by some other prince and all. One of the major Delhi Darbar was the Delhi Darbar of 1911. Delhi Darbar of 1911 was historic because it was attended by the emperor himself. Remember, it was the King George was there, King George V was there, and in this a lot of announcements were being made, that is shifting of capital from Calcutta to Delhi. Second, the partition of the Bengal was annulled, that we have discussed. So Delhi Darbars are important. Remember these three Darbars. So creation of the council, no, it was not done. It was done in the 1977. Then annulment of the partition of the Bengal, yes, it was done in 1911 Darbar, and then it was also done in the 1911 Darbar. So answer is 2 and 3, both are right. Consider the following statement with reference to Swadeshi movement. In the movement, a great emphasis was given to the self-reliance or the Atma Shakti. The movement failed to garner the support of the Muslim masses. There were no incidences of the communal violence during the Swadeshi movement. With reference to Swadeshi movement statements. So 1 and 2, 2 and 3, it's a very easy question. So obviously first statement is right. Reliance was given to self-reliance and Atma Shakti. So first statement is right. Second, movement failed to garner support of the Muslim masses. Yes, we have seen that. Second statement is also right. So this is wrong. Then there were no incidents of communal violence. No. How can you say no incidents? And first of all, it's an absolute statement. And yes, when the Muslim masses were not there, there will be some cases of the communal riots will be there. Important aspect of Swadeshi Atma Shakti, we have discussed that. Then women came out and a lot of institutions were being made for education, Swadeshi and all these things. You can see in Bengal, people like Nawab Salimullah of Decca were propped up, so center of opposition to the Muslim movement. Mullah and Maulvis were pressed into the service, and surprisingly, at the height of the Swadeshi movement, communal riot broke out in the Bengal. So statement third is wrong. Statement 1 and 2 is right. Then, which of the following revolutionary leaders established the Home Rule League of America? This is another one thing that you need to add to your arsenal. So Home Rule League of America was being created by the which leader? So it was the leader, that is Lala Lajpat Rai. So if you remember, after the Swadeshi movement faded out, after the Surat split, our leaders went different places. Your Bipin Chandrapal almost retired from politics. He went to, Aurobindo went to Puducherry, Tilak went to jail, and Lajpat Rai later on went to USA. He spent some time in USA. He propped up this Indian Home Rule League in October 1917, and with obviously the idea is the same, that Indian Information Bureau, so that Indians living in the USA, they get their information. The people living in the USA who believe in the idea of freedom, they need to get what is happening in the other colonies. So option number A is right. That is Lala Lajpat Rai. Consider the following statement with reference to the policy of the Indian National Congress toward the Indian state that has been enunciated in the Nagpur session. Now this is a different session altogether, because one part we have discussed, that is in British India, there is a British India, right? And there is some princely states. So we are discussing what is the policy of the Congress for these princely states. And some things we have already discussed, right? Some things are left out. Later on, we'll discuss it completely. So what about the Congress policy towards this princely states? One of the significant resolution was being made in the Nagpur session. Nagpur session in 1920. So what was being discussed in the Nagpur session? So policy of the Indian National Congress toward the Indian state has first enunciated in the Nagpur session. In the Nagpur session, they say that the princes of these princely states must grant full responsible government to the states. First thing. Second, they said for the people, people living in the princely state, you can become the member of the Congress. But in your princely state, you should not start a movement in the name of the Congress. Right? Yes, you can become the member of the Congress, but you should not start a movement in the name of the Congress. Right? And do it in the individual capacity or as a member of the local political organization. So don't do that. Then the main emphasis was that the people of the state should build up their own strength and demonstrate their ability to struggle for their demand. Informal link between the Congress and the various organizations of the people of the states, including All India State People Conference, will continue to be close. Obviously, Congress maintain close relationship with them, but unse bola abhi ke liye, for now, let's maintain some distance. You should not do anything in terms of the Congress. Otherwise, it will bring more crackdown on the Congress, and they will not be able to do a lot in the British India. Let us see the question. Consider the following statement with reference to policy of the Indian National Congress had enunciated in the Nagpur. The resolution calling the princes to grant the full responsible government. Yes. It did not allow the resident of the states to become the member. No. It did allow resident to become the member of the Congress. Next question is, in which of the following Congress sessions was the Swaraj Party was formed? Swaraj Party was formed in which of the sessions? Belgaum session, Gaya session, Calcutta session, Lahore session. We've discussed that. So different sessions are important. For example, Calcutta session 1920, Lala Lajpat Rai was the president. It was a special session. Then we have the Nagpur session. Then we have the Gaya session of 1922. Gaya session happened after your Chauri Chaura resolution, Chauri Chaura incident, I should say, not resolution. And there was a lot of disagreement. C. Rajaji said that, C.R. Das said that if he moved a proposal to enter the Legislative Council, because we have discussed that C.R. Das was in the favor of the council entry, that we want council entry. If you don't give us council entry, we'll make our different parties. And they formed the Swaraj Party, and later on reconciliation happened and the breakup in the Congress did not happen. We have discussed that. So answer will be the Gaya session in the 1922. Then now that is it, that we around 10 questions we have discussed today, 10 to 11 questions. Now something with respect to Satyagraha. A lot of event and a lot of things happened between 1922 to 27 and different things. More or less these things will be covered through questions only, but very quickly. So a lot of time flag Satyagraha happened. Flag Satyagraha, what does it mean? For example, there is a building in your city. The Union Jack, that is the flag of the British, is being there. And now you are saying as a by non-cooperation happened, now you have the political propaganda, you know that we need to go for self-government, and you are saying that it is our right to put up our flag on this building, let us say. So peaceful civil disobedience campaign during the Indian movement focused on exercising the rights and the freedom to host the national flag and challenging the legitimacy of the British rule. Mainly it was being done in the Nagpur and the Jabalpur in 1922 and 23. The leaders being Seth Jamnath ji and the Hakim Ajmal Khan. So this is the flag Satyagraha. Later on in the Quit India movement, we'll also see a similar flag Satyagraha being done. Then Borsat Satyagraha, very important Satyagraha. Borsat Satyagraha was said to be one of the very successful Satyagraha. Right? It was led by Sardar Patel. So September 1923, what happened? A lot of taxes were being put. Around 2.4 lakh rupees of taxes were being put on the people. So there was a praise, Borsat. So the police said that we will protect you from these two dacoits, those who are looting the people. Police said that we'll protect you, but you need to give us money. But police later on, it was found that the police was hand in gloves with these dacoits. So this is what was investigated by Sardar Patel. Sardar Patel said that what is this happening? Why are you looting the people? And he said, no taxes have to be paid. Patel said taxes will not be paid. He said that I'll put an agitation against the taxes, which is immoral and unnecessary. He organized hundreds of the congressmen. And after protracted struggle, the government withdrew the taxes. Right? And he established trust and cohesion and trust among the different castes and the communities. So this is your Borsad Satyagraha. Very quickly, so Patel and allies found the evidence that is the police and the dacoits are hand in gloves. So this is your Borsad Satyagraha. Next, very, very important, that is Viacom Satyagraha. A lot of students from the Kerala, I hope those will be knowing better about the Viacom Satyagraha. So I'll discuss it on a very peripheral basis, that is sufficient for the exam. So obviously the idea is that caste rigidities were there in the whole country. For example, even now in some temples, the lower caste and the Dalits are not allowed to enter the temples. In Kerala, even some places they were not allowed to enter the village or use the roads which lead to the temple. So this entrenched caste prejudice was there, or caste discrimination was there. So the low caste Hindu were not allowed to enter the temple. In Kerala, not even allowed to walk on the roads that lead to the temple also. So the Congress Kakinada they met, and TK Madhavan raised up this proposal that this needs to be solved. We need to do something against it. This is a blatant discrimination. Then committees were being formed. One committee was being formed, and the head of the committee was, and the committee was being formed to fight against this untouchability. They decided to do this Kerala Parithanam, that is, they formed the committee, and small groups they have formed, committee of 3, right? So movement began in 30th March 1924. In the batches of 3, they tried to enter the temple. Obviously, they'll be arrested by the police. They got the support of the Gandhi, Sri Narayan Guru, Akali of Punjab, Christian and Muslim leaders. Gandhiji had some reservations with respect to the participation of the Christian and the Muslim leaders. Gandhiji wanted to be an intra-Hindu affair, and it was taken back. Movement was taken back in April 1924. But again, a lot of people again gathered together. A lot of Savarna forward class marched with the procession and submitted a petition to the queen who was there. That is Regent Maharani Lakshmi Bai of Travancore. A lot of signatures were being signed. Gandhiji also met with the Maharani, and a lot of conversations are there between Gandhiji, K. Kalappan, and a lot of people. You people may be knowing a lot, because obviously in the local area a lot of stories and a lot of more information is there with respect to such conversations. So a lot of people took to the procession, and around 5,000 people reached Trivandrum in the month of November 1924. Then by that, what was the consequence? In the November 1925, all the gates were open except the eastern gates, and 1928 the backward class got the right to walk on the public road leading to the temple. Right, it was the first time that an organized movement was being conducted on such a massive scale for basic rights of the untouchable and other backward class in Kerala. So from Kerala's perspective, Vaikom Satyagraha is very, very seminal movement which figures in the national movement, because it's a very common sense that one can see that a lot of movements and a lot of struggles that have happened in the South India do not feature in the Indian modern history, whatever we read. So you can say there is a North Indian bias also, and you can also say that North India there was more British India, more brutality of the British India, because it was a richer, as in terms of the crops and everything, it was a relatively richer fertile area to extract more from, right? Plus it was a seat of the Mughals also, the North India, so it has got more focus politically as well, and later on by the British. Then the Rampa rebellion was under the leadership of the Alluri Sitaram Raju. A tribal movement was fought against the British as a protest to 1982 Madras Forest Act in Visakhapatnam. So obviously minor to the tribe, the right of the tribals to take up this minor forest produce were being curtailed. Right, tribal people were restricted from free movement in the forest area, prevented from engaging in the traditional pudu cultivation and use the forest for firewood and toddy. So you are delinking the tribal and the forest, which live in the very symbiotic relationship. So you are trying to distort this symbiotic relationship, which is not good. The revolt lasted till the Alluri Sitaram Raju shot dead by the British forces in the Mampa village of the Visakhapatnam. So finally he was shot dead. Then the last satyagraha that we're going to discuss, and a very important satyagraha, that is the Bardoli Satyagraha. So Bardoli Taluk in the Surat district has witnessed intense politicization after the coming of the Gandhi on the national political scene. And a movement sparked off in January 26 when authority decided to increase the land revenue. They said that increase the land revenue by 30%. Obviously, there will be the protests from the Congress ki side. Congress formed this Bardoli Inquiry Committee. And obviously, they'll found that this hike that you are saying 30% is unjust. So Vallabhbhai Patel was called to lead the movement, and women of the Bardoli gave him the title of Sardar. Patel, with the Bardoli peasant, resolved to refuse the payment of the revised assessment until the government appointed the independent tribunal and accepted the current amount as the full amount. So these were the conditions from the side of the Sardar Patel. To organize the movement, the Patel set up 13 Chhavani and the workers' camp. Bardoli Satyagraha Patrika was being done. So a lot of organizational skills you can see of the Patel here. Very organizational skills and intelligence wing were being set up. Whenever they come to know that someone is coming to take up the rent or to take up to collect the rent, they will inform everyone, है ना, to make sure all the tenants follow the movement's resolution. Those who oppose, तो उनका क्या करना है? The same thing that we have discussed earlier, socially ostracize them. So special emphasis was placed on the mobilization of the women, right? And to protest against this uh, recent hike, the people in the Bombay Legislative Council, that is KM Munshi and Lalaji Narayan ji, also resigned from the Bombay Legislative Council. Then by August 1928, massive tension built up in the area. There were prospects of the railway strike. Gandhi also reached Bardoli. The government was looking for a peaceful withdrawal now, because now they can see a lot of protests are being done. It set the condition that first the enhanced rent to be paid off till all the occupants, paid by all the occupants. Then a committee went up into the whole affair and found the revenue hike to be unjustified and recommended only 6.03% of the tick by the only itna rise karenge, that's all, right? So this is the Bardoli Satyagraha, and again you can see small compromise was being made, but the 30% hike to only 6% hike was a good success. So that's all with respect to Bardoli Satyagraha. We'll discuss all these Satyagraha which are relevant will through questions as well, है ना? Questions के साथ के होने पे क्या होता है? It becomes more objective in nature, and we'll try to do that. So today's session was more about questions, I'll say, and then small Satyagraha that we have seen. One question I'll give you for the mains. Illustrate the difference between different phases of the revolutionary activities with the changing character in India between the 1890s and the 1930s. So we need to see the different phases of the revolutionary activities. So it's a good question. I try to attempt this question. We have already discussed it. So with this, we finish this particular session. Now you are seeing in time in between a political inactivity. 1922 and 1928, 1927, I should say, time of very political inactivity. Nothing is happening. If anything is happening, it's happening very locally and very sporadically. And the major movement will come. Now the time has come. One spark will come. What will that spark be? That spark will be the Simon Commission. It is said that when the Simon Commission will come, it will raise all the people from the slumber. As if they are sleeping, they will be woke up and they will say, no, again, we want something. So Simon Commission will provide that trigger to that thing. Okay? It will provide a lot of trigger to the political activity. So with this, we finish the session for today, and we'll see the session we'll continue the session in the next session. Okay. Bye bye. See you all. See you in the next class.